Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode here at the Debate Circle. We are in the coastal region here at the Swahili Port, and we cannot wait to crown the winners for this particular region. Joining us today, we have Barani Secondary School and Wa Boys High School. Their motion of dissection reads, African values of saving and community support are more effective than Western financial concepts in eradication of poverty. I'll read the motion of dissection again. African values of saving and community support are more effective than Western financial concepts in eradication of poverty. All the best to both teams. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Martin Luther King once said, you don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. So, what first step are we taking? The first step we should take is to normalize the African values of saving and community support. I am Saif Amisi from the Barani Secondary School, here to firmly support the motion that states African values of saving and community support are more effective than the Western financial concepts of poverty eradication. So, what is saving? Saving basically means spending less than you earn. And according to Wikipedia, poverty eradication measures are a set of measures, both economic and humanitarian, that are intended to permanently lift people's living standards. So, why should we adopt African values of community and saving? First, we have the centric approach. The community is involved. So, everyone knows this. It's my money. I get to know what is done with it. I get to decide what is done with my money. Yeah, and so, unlike in the Western financial concepts, we have people, you hand over your money to someone who makes the decisions for you. They make the decisions whether to give you the loan or not. But in the community approach, I give out my money. I know what will be done with my money. And in African values of saving and community support, we also have the fact that the money, the funds which are allocated there help in the growth of the community. So let's, it's an instance. I give out, various people of the community give out their money. They give out their money knowing that this money will help maybe build a borehole, or maybe it will help even to help the sick. Back home, by the way, I'm from Malindi, by the way. So back home, around my community, we have a neighbor. And unfortunately, the neighbor suffered from diabetes. He was diabetic. And so, he was diabetic, and his family was financially unstable. So what did the community do? The community got together, raised funds, and fortunately, he was able to get medication. And as we speak, he's currently fit as a fiddle. And so financial aspects, the African values of saving and community support, they're more effective. This is because my money, I get to know what is done with it. I don't give out my money to someone who decides what to do with my money. My money, my decision. And I rest my case. Thank you.
Imagine a world without Western financial systems. 1 billion people might still be trapped under extreme poverty. This system have acted as lifelines, lifting millions of people out of poverty in just 25 years. As the saying goes, finance is the lifeblood of prosperity. My name is Robert Mkala from Wa Boys High School. You can call me Mr. X. Strongly opposing the motion that reads, African values of saving and community support are more effective than Western financial concept in eradication of poverty. First, before I get into my argument, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to define the terms in the motion. When we talk of African values of saving, these are community-based way of saving and borrowing money. They rely on trust and group cooperation. When we talk of Western financial system now, this is a concept that involves formal financial system for saving, investing, and managing money, where we can talk of saving account, investment funds, credit cards, loans, retirement account, mortgage, stock, bonds, and microfinance. Poverty is the state of being poor. Ladies and gentlemen, someone was telling me that the economy of African countries is growing. And I told them, yes, the economy is growing. But no matter how fast a goat grows, he can only be a fat goat. He can never be an elephant. Now, Western financial system, this is like an elephant, is operating all over the world. Think of World Bank. Think of IMF. And then the number one reason why I'm hand in hand with the Western financial concept of saving is because it offers scalability and systematic solution that African model struggle to achieve. For instance, the adoption of the modern banking system and investment infrastructure has propelled countries like Singapore and South Korea from poverty to prosperity. This country have experienced annual growth of GDP rate exceeding 7% during their rapid development. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying that African values of saving are not important. They can be. But the question we need to ask ourselves, is it effective enough to eradicate poverty? Let me give you a certain testimony that happened to my life, so as to prove to you that African values of saving and community work are not effective. I come from a middle class family, and when I was joining Form 1, my mother decided to borrow a loan in one of the common informal system of borrowing money that we know, that is Chama. I think everybody knows Chama. That is Chama. So my mother was given the money, and during the time of returning, due to unavoidable circumstances, my mother failed to return the money on time. Do you know what they did to my mother? The same people you're calling community, the same people you are calling community member, are the same people who came to our home, took our properties, including television, sofa sets, and other valuable things. Now tell me, do African values of saving, those groups, do they build community or do they destroy community? Our option remains to be Western financial concept. My name is Robert Mkala. You can call me Mr. X from the Great Tour Boys High School, strongly opposing the motion that reads African values of saving and community work are more effective than Western financial concept. I raise my case.
If African values of saving and community support are not effective, they're wrong. I don't want to be right. I go by the name Safari Carlos from the mighty Barani, hereby proposing the motion that says so. If Western concepts of financial eradication of poverty are more effective, why the new partnership lead for Africa development suggested it as the eighth strategy of the eradication of poverty in the country? As they say, first things first, it could be the first thing or the first strategy in the country. Why do I say that? African values of saving and community support offer a quick access to the loans. For example, the minimum amount of time to be given a loan in the Western financial concept is 48 hours to 2 weeks, depending on the amount and the type of loan. What about if I'm in urgent need of money? Should I wait for 2 weeks or 48 hours? I think that's not the best strategy to do. Secondly, low investment interest. In African values and community support, low interest is charged, while in the Western concept, a large amount of interest is charged. Like when you have to withdraw from the M-Pesa, 500, you'll be charged 27 shilling. What about if you are withdrawing like 200K? The money you are charged as fee can be used in doing other things, promotion or eradication of poverty. I want to tell the opposers that joining our team is free and no registration is needed. You only need to walk 2 steps to this side. Thank you.
I'm Mr. Y, an advocate of African saving systems and also the treasurer in our local chama. But I have bad intentions. I plan to flee the country with all of your savings, and I successfully do so. So what does that mean for all the people who are saving their money? It means you go back to square one, back to the drawing boards. It means it's back to the blame game. It means you did nothing in eradicating poverty. My name is Abdul Chiti from the Great Waha, and I strongly oppose the motion that states African values of savings and community support are more effective than Western financial concepts in eradication of poverty. They call me Mr. Y, and this is my first consensus label of argument: global investment and foreign aid. Western financial concepts are support global investment and foreign aid critically for developing economies that are crumbling down. A good example is the World Bank, which has been providing loans and financial help to many African countries, including our very own Kenya. Another good example is the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan came as a result of World War II, when the economy of Europe was crumbling down and it was devastating. So the United States decided investing over 12 billion, which, mind you, is equivalent to 130 billion today, in rebuilding Europe, dramatically reducing poverty and setting a precedent for global financial aid. Chamas cannot help build highways. Chamas cannot help rebuild a country's dying economy. They simply lack the muscles to fight these critical situations. And this is why we're saying that Western financial concepts are the way to go. And if we're saying that by doing so, we're eradicating poverty, why between our fighting of poverty are you guys passing around? Straight to my second consensus label of argument: access to education and healthcare. Western financial concepts are the champions of funding for education and healthcare in the world, creating long-term poverty reduction strategies, and also organizations like IMF and USAID, which are offsprings of Western financial concepts, have been helping these countries in poverty eradication, playing a major role in aiding our countries with healthcare and education, like the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals, which have channeled billions into improving these sectors globally, significantly reducing poverty levels in the world. Just as the first speaker came here and said, putting my money in a bank doesn't necessarily mean the money is the bank's money. It's still necessarily your money. So saying my money, my choice, because I put it in a chama, is still my money. Putting it in a bank is still your money. You're just safekeeping it. Like I said in my first example, if someone flees with your money, you can't get it back. But if you put it in a bank, even if the bank is a victim of arson, it's insured, so you get your money back. So it doesn't mean you're going back to the drawing boards after that. I'm all in for African values of savings and community support, but thinking it can eradicate poverty is a bit like thinking we can use a Band-Aid to fix a broken leg. My name is Abdul Chiti, and understanding me is easy. It's just solving for why. Thank you.
In 1963, Kenya was given an independence. But in 1964, Kenya got full independence. But we are not talking about full independence. We are now in a dependence. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Oscar. You can call me the future Cabinet Secretary of Treasurer. African values of saving and community support are more effective than Western financial concept in eradication of poverty. I will say, and I will put my point, that why I support African saving, because African saving, it is well communicated to you. One, I will say, it is good, and it is given to you as luck. It is given to you when you are given integrity. You can have integrity of what you have said. You can have integrity of what you have given. You can have integrity of what you have put. African values of saving, community support. This is the modern way that if Africa, we want to remove from Western financial, then we can say we want African financial saving. I had my opponent saying that one day they borrowed money from chamas, and then they took her to school with that chama money, if I'm not wrong. They took you to school with Nini Chama's money. And you said that your mother, of which I'm very sorry, your mother did not able to pay the Chama's loan, which your mother took. And in that issue, the Chama has to decide and say that because you cannot afford paying our loan, then we have to come and take what is yours. And then, if a Chama can do and take your loans, imagine what can Western financial do to you. Your Western Chamas have taken your TV, but Western will take your buildings, will take your whole privilege and whole worked hard entirety and savings. Ladies and gentlemen, my second point is corruption. The former president of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, said one day that Kenya always lose 6 billion. In that 6 billion, it is borrowed money. It is the Western financial money. But we cannot have the lack, we cannot be given people who have done that because we don't know. We always ask ourselves, why? My third point is that Western financial concept has a lot of demands. One of them demands is one they give to Africa. And they say, we will not give you money if you not do this. We will not give you money if you don't do that. And which we said no and no is about gazing. They said, we will not give you money if you will not put gayism as a law. And watch example of one country said that Uganda said, we don't want your money, we don't want anything to do with you, and will not put will not put our boys in a nini. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to say that no and no and no to Western financial. If we decide and if we say that Western is the key, then we are wrong. If we continue to behave normally, Western financial will treat us abnormally.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could have a mirror and give the future Cabinet Secretary of Treasury so that he could look at himself, because when I look at him, many questions come to my mind. My fellow brother, he has just said, why between our way of eradicating poverty, you're passing around? But he has forget to say that he hates you. I hate your argumentation, but I like you because I'm here to correct you as a young boy fighting for a better Africa. Esusu in Nigeria, Stokvels in South Africa, Susu in Ghana, Chamas in Kenya, and our own very community support Harambee. But you clearly know that these community saving and values, they cannot eradicate poverty, including the community support. Look at the Horn of Africa. Over 4.8 millions of Kenyans and the rest of Africans are facing hunger and food starvation. This is according to Daily Nation 2023 on July 2nd. Where are they to overcome this crisis? if you try to adjust the approximate length of thinking capacity, you can find that, or you can clearly see that they cannot eradicate poverty in our continent. Because already 60% of African land is uncultivated. And the system or the concept of financial, which realized this, is the United Nations in cooperation of World Bank. They estimated that if this arable land, nurtured and cultivated, Africa can feed over 60% of the world. Does this not eradicate poverty? It does. Also, ladies and gentlemen, the third speaker was saying that there's corruption in Africa. I think corruption is now a long gone, and it has remained a bygone. We have no corruption in Africa because even in Kenya, we have the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau. So stop talking about corruption. We're here looking at ways how we can overcome poverty and have no poverty in our continent. Also, ladies and gentlemen, do you know that in 2019 to 2020 or 2021 pandemic, COVID-19, all of us were in lockdowns? Where was the chama, a susu, to save us? The only people or the only system of financial concept which they come to rescue, World Bank, IMF, and helping with the United Nations are the one who helped us through this crisis. So Africans saving values, they cannot eradicate poverty in Africa, or rather in Kenya. Thank you very much. My name is Aaron Zero from the Great Wahai.
Before I dive deeper, the future Cabinet Secretary of Treasury has asked me to give you this quote. Survival is not about being fearless. It's about making a decision, getting on, and doing it. The decision to adopt African values of saving is a decision that will benefit the lives of many. As my predecessor has said, to get loans from the Western aspects, you have to give in to their demands. But in the community, we as a community, we do what we want to do without anyone telling us what to do. Yeah, and I'm not saying that Western aspects are bad or anything, but as a matter of fact, Western aspects even give a better offer in terms of technology and scale efficiency. But what we need to see is that the African values, their effectiveness comes in where mobilizing of funds is easy. You can get a loan in even a day. You have an emergency, go get a loan. You'll be given a loan. And it builds trust among the community. Yeah. Thank you all for your time. I'm Safe Amisi.
Bravo. Those were some amazing points. But I'm diabetic and my sugar level is a bit high. So let me quickly hydrolyze your points one by one. You say it helps quicken African values of saving, help quicken taking loans. But how does that even eradicate poverty? That was my main concern. I think my sugar level is low now. So I'd like to say that the African values of savings can't survive unforeseen circumstances. Like COVID-19, when the pandemic hit Kenya and all of Africa at large, where were these African values of savings and community support networks? Where was Susu? Where was Esusu? Where were the chamas? Where were the community funds? Nowhere to be seen, hiding away. But where was World Bank? Where was USAID? Where was IMF? Right there, standing tall, keeping us protected from the harmful effects of poverty during the COVID pandemic. Your ego is very expensive, third speaker, just like my shoes, but still under my foot. My name is Abdul Chiti from the Great Wahai, and I rest my case.
All right. Now, this was a fairly well-heated motion with both teams bringing out the best. African values of saving and community support are more effective than Western financial concepts in eradication of poverty. Save Hamisi. You came on board and fairly laid a strong argument for your team. However, it's important for you as the first debater to define some of the key terms. For example, you did not bring us to speed on what is Western financial concept. You do not expound on what is community support, which are key terminologies for this motion. However, you mentioned a bit of, the other terminologies. Then for education purposes, Wikipedia is not a credible source of information because it's subject to editing by anybody who can access it. So next time you can pick a more relevant source. And then I felt that as a first debater, you could have given us more research-based examples to back up your argument. Robert, good use of rhetorical questions. You have a very powerful stage presence and a very passionate debater. I just need to be more time conscious. And again, when you give us topic statements, you need to expound more. For example, when you talk about scalability and systemic solutions, you need to give us examples on how these things have been effected on the ground. Harun, 0. It is Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, not Bureau. But then you also have a very powerful stage presence, a debater with a lot of potential. It is always a learning experience. Wish you guys all the best. Thank you.